no space and you want a tropical landscape, no problem. Today's video is totally going to be all about how to create that. It's such a misconception that a lot of people think, it's a lot of my clients that I meet with every single day want that tropical privacy buffer, but they're like, okay, but I'm on like this much land. In this particular property that we're at here in Stuart, Florida, there is approximately 8 foot of space along this side. And I cannot wait to show you guys how we layered this in, how we place these plants and trees to just kind of give them that perfect amount of space. In today's video, we're not only going to just talk about how we styled it, how we set it up, how we created as much maximum amount of tropical vibes in this whole backyard space as we could possibly fit in it, but we're also going to get into, you know, the key areas to kind of look for, the little sections in the garden to highlight and where and what and how to recognize that, because I think that is so important in a cool gardenscape. We'll get to that later in the video. Today we are visiting a project we just finished literally yesterday in a monsoon. Absolutely turned out beautiful, that I asked Bryce along to please kind of share it with this community, because I think that a lot of us are struggling with the same type of situations that my customers, Mary and Mike, were struggling with. They wanted a garden, they wanted it to be tropical, they wanted coverage, they wanted privacy, and they had this much room to put it all in. But I will talk about the plants and the trees and what they're going to do over time, like I always do. So that way, if you guys want to recreate this kind of look in your small space, take this as a template and say, okay, this is kind of the direction I want to go in with my particular area, because I know this plant combination, these groupings are totally going to work for my garden because they're working in this garden from a professional landscape designer. Speaking of combination plantings though, our book is almost ready. It will be the first link down in the description. We are super, super excited. This has been a work in progress. It has been in the works for over a year, and we have just tweaked and adjusted and tweaked and adjusted just to make it perfect, to make it something that you could pick up and enjoy reading with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Or it could be something that you take right to the garden center with you, because it's got a list of plant groupings that do super well. Tough, hardy plants of Florida that I use every single day in my designs. Then I also take it one step further by putting combination plant groupings, things that are going to play well together. So that way you guys can say, okay, I like this plant, I like the way it looks. It's going to work now with this combination of 5 or 6 plant groupings together. So you kind of have like a home run of what plants are going to really do well together over a period of time and grow seamlessly in your garden with as little care as possible that can handle our tough Florida environment. More on that later. I will put it in the description down below, and let's get this party started and show you guys around. So starting this section off, the biggest issue with most Florida homes, especially ones that have these fantastic pool areas, is it leaves little side yard slips that you don't really know what to do with. Should you just put a row of palm trees in? Should you just put some areca palms in? I mean, there's just so many different options that you can do, and you kind of don't maybe want to be fully enclosed. You want some interest, you want some color, you want some character, you want some levels and layers. That's exactly what I feel we accomplished in this space. So just to give you guys kind of a point of reference on the size that we're looking at, from the first section of the bed, from the corner of the house here to the end of the bed there, is 37 foot long. Normally in a normal backyard, what you'd be seeing is the neighbor's backyard pool area, the neighbor's backyard space where they entertain and where you entertain. So of course, privacy is key if you can create something that divides those two areas. From the foundation of the screen area here out to the property line is exactly 10 foot. Now, although we had 10 foot of space to work with, if you guys want to keep your neighbors happy and you don't want to be in that low spot of your yard, you kind of still want to be on the high spot for your rear tier. And that's exactly what happened. The further back we got, the further the slant started to get. So we chose to bring it up 2 foot in. So this whole bed space from here to the end of the bed is 8 foot deep, which is a good amount of space to kind of maintain to the backside. This way you can maintain from the rear side of the planting bed and not be on your neighbor's property. And that's incredibly helpful to keep happy neighbors. We chose to stay within that 8 foot guideline, which really did squish things up. So when you're breaking down how many layers you can get into an 8 foot space, you really have to start looking at your ground covers, your accents, your trees, and then your privacy hedge. So you have to make sure that there's going to be enough room to do that. So you can allocate enough room for things to grow in, to fill out, to lush out. So that's exactly what we did here. So as you're looking at your space, just kind of imagine with me, if you have a very similar layout as this and it's 8 foot long, you're going to want to make sure that you're leaving enough room for each layer to really fully grow in. happens. But just to give you guys an example, I am gonna get Bryce in front of this camera. We're gonna walk this off so that way you guys, it really sets in just kind of exactly how these layers are set up. So you really feel comfortable with kind of doing this on your own. So I'm gonna get Bryce right out of his comfort zone, away from the rear side of the camera to in front of the camera.
Hey guys, don't you love it when your mom ropes you into things? I'm not used to being on camera, so I'm just gonna give you my best shot with this. Let me try to explain this the best way I can. One thing that's really important is to make sure that you're on center of all of these plants. So going off the screen room, you're gonna go 1 foot, 2 feet to the middle of the plant. That's your ground cover. That's one layer right there. That's your first one. Going to the next layer, you're going 1 foot, 2 feet right here. That's your next layer of the crotons and the alamander right here. Next layer is gonna be this big foxtail. Going to 1, 2 feet right there. That's your third layer. So you can see 2, 4, 6, you're at 3 layers. The final layer is gonna be this Lucie hedge right here. That's gonna be 1, 2 feet. So now you're at 8 feet of space, and then you have another 2 feet for your maintenance path back here. So we like to say that they can range from 2 to 3 feet depending on the layer, especially when you're in a condensed space right here. You're gonna have to condense the plants in a little bit more than you normally would. Lucie would normally want around 3 feet of space, but when you're trying to fill it in, you're gonna try to keep it trimmed up to about 2 feet of space so you can fit your bigger material like your foxtails. And then your gold mound, your blue mines, they can vary from about 1 to 2 feet of space rather than that big 3 that it normally would take to fill that space. Hope that explains it pretty well for you guys, and let's get back into it.
So in this particular case, because of what we had to work with, I knew that we could do 4 layers into this particular spot. And then now it's time to decide what layers and why. So we're gonna get into that now. Obviously we have the Lucie, that's our backdrop, our wall. If you're not a Lucie fan and maybe your space is even tighter than this and you need to keep that rear wall a foot wide, you might be better off going with something like podocarpus. That'll kind of give you a long linear type of look. It will take longer to grow in. These Lucie within 6 months will be a nice solid wall. So that's so great. You'll be a good year to year and a half before it really connects. So that's kind of the reason why I lean more towards the Lucie. It's also gonna not only give you privacy, but it's gonna let what we chose to the front of it really pop with color, because anytime you put a green screen next to anything, well, you guys know it by now if you watch this channel, it brings out the color of everything else. It takes it and really just kind of controls your environment, creates more of a garden setting, more of a courtyard kind of feel. And that's what I love about these kind of walls in a landscape. So that's why it was one of the most important things to get in at a good size. These are 10-gallon Lucie. They came in about 4 foot tall. So they're really starting off to a great start. Going to create a perfect 6-foot wall along this area. And then the next thing to do is decide on your trees. What trees are you going to work with? Do you want layers of big and tall and short and cool trees? Yes. However, when you're working with a narrow space, you have to make sure that your trees not only vary in size, but won't compete with each other. Because I can't take these trees like I did in my very own house where my buffer was 16 to 18 foot deep. I can't take them and put my taller trees back here, my shorter trees here, and so on, and layer like this. This is a row. All of these trees are 6 foot off of the screen room, just to kind of keep them off of the screen room, to keep these fronds away. So I had to strategically plan on what trees I can use, where and how. King Alexanders are some of my favorite trees to work with. I think they're an ideal, beautiful centerpiece, big crown, nice, cool, sturdy trunk. Love this ringed kind of cane look to it, just so cool and green, and a very substantial tree for an area. I think it's a nice dynamic look. And so I started it with the King Alexander. Now the King Alexander growth rate grows slower than the tree right next to it. However, I did not want to rely solely on the growth rates on things, so I was able to bring this tree in at a 15-foot size, where the King Alexander is at an 11-foot size. So if that is you guys, no matter what size you're working with, make sure that whatever tree you're starting with is either taller or shorter, it doesn't matter, whatever your viewpoint is, make sure it starts out at a different height as the neighboring tree, so that way you can layer this way, up and down, instead of having to layer staggered forward, because because you just don't have that kind of room, right? These two trees right here are about 9 foot apart. So they're about 9 foot on center here to give us plenty of room. So that way they cascade, but they don't interfere with each other. And because the levels are different, they're not going to combine like this or clash. They're going to give you that different feel, that more opening kind of a look with a shorter tree and a taller tree. This tree will grow faster than this tree. So that way there's always going to be a height difference no matter how many years down the road this goes. And that's just how you get that tropical feel. You get that trunk on trunk kind of look mixed in with all your plant groupings. You just got to make sure that you're really allowing for proper space and proper height so things don't clash, so things really kind of draw you in like this when you're looking through the garden. And that's exactly what we continued on right over here. So now we drop down to the pygmy date palm. So I've got 2 trees on either side, but we needed still coverage, long-term coverage. So you guys know how I feel about my pygmies. Beautiful little tree in the beginning, and then as they grow into their full maturity, they're the perfect blocking tree for a long-term success without the maintenance of having to do a hedge of any kind. So this is a great kind of little focal point, and it's soft little frond. We go up from the 15 foot down to the 5 foot of the pygmy date palm. This is a triple pygmy date palm. Right next to it is another King Alexander palm. So you see we started with the King Alexander, double foxtail, pygmy date palm, back up to the King Alexander, and then back down to another pygmy date palm. This is another triple. So we've dropped it back down again, only to go back, right back up again. It's like a roller coaster ride. This is like a great roller coaster ride. I just love that. So we're back up to the double foxtail yet again, and then we've completely brought in another pygmy right anchoring this corner. Now this pygmy, when it matures and grows in, it's going to completely wrap around this corner, giving them that really soft buffering feel, because I didn't want them to see the end of the Collusia hedge, the end of the wall. I wanted to soften it, to curve it, to kind of make this not feel so tight and constricted. So the best way to do that is to layer your plants to the front of that hedge. You don't know how many times I've had clients say, I want privacy, but I don't want a wall, or I don't want a hedge. And I'm like, well, okay, so we can do, you know, other types of trees for that. But that wasn't the look either. They kind of wanted the clean line of a hedge, but not feeling like it's just a big tall wall. This is how you do that. You layer to the front of it, create pockets, create grooves, create interest, let that wall do its job, and then make it pretty. Just put pretty things in front of it. So that's the secret to landscape designing. So now we're working our way around, and now we've chosen a different tree right here. This is a regular Alexander, about 12.5 foot tall. So this Alexander, I love. This is one of Bryce's favorite trees. He just loves the caning on these trees. It's almost like a bamboo caning. It's much smaller than the other trees. It has more of a droopy kind of soft frond. And I don't think that it's like one of those trees that are such a stature tree that you can only have it amongst nothing else in the garden. But I do like the change up that it offers with all the other variety of fronds. I'm a big fan of diversity in the garden. And if you could kind of create a different kind of look and still match the theme, still carry the theme over, I think that's what makes a garden very interesting. So I love this double Alexander right to the rear of the fence, kind of ending this corner of the bed, only to match it on the opposite side. You want to find some key areas to really make, just kind of make a statement piece, make an area for your eye to rest. And that can be done with so many things. I did them here with plants. It could be done with a boulder. It could be done with a statue. It could be done with a potted plant that you have something really cool that needs to be in a pot that pops out of it. But those kind of things, those are important little personality touches, like that little key thing that you're like, I love the garden, but I come out just to kind of check on this little area in particular. You kind of want to make sure the center of the garden or center of this wall buffer has something interesting to look at. You want to start with that. So let's take a peek and look in here, and then we'll go to the next section. We are now inside the buffer. Bryce had to pop in on the other side of the screen. I hope you guys can still see okay. The centerpiece, we all kind of know that's the area you want your eye to draw to first. Each centerpiece of this bed has a silver odorata. I love this plant. This is a no-fuss plant. It loves, loves, loves. It can handle morning, midday sun. Try to keep it at afternoon sun unless this is something that has some protection, like a palm tree over top of it. Some palm trees kind of doing this to give it filtered light like you're seeing it come in now. That's the perfect environment for it. It is a bromeliad, but it is a tough one, and it does not multiply or spread or go to town. This is a solitary plant, so it's going to work perfectly in this area. But you notice it's silver. So what I did is a contrast of color. So this could be anything. Could be in your garden a false agave, it could be a bird of paradise, it could be a king sago, it could be a dioun palm, it could be anything that draws your eye. But if at all possible, and you've got this much green, this much yellow, this much red, why not do silver? Silver, I think, is a gorgeous touch, especially when the garden is a little shaded, because it's like a little highlight, a little pop of color, a little pop of a spotlight in the garden. And that's exactly what this guy is going to do, is create that spotlight as the centerpiece. So what we did is we took the centerpiece in and framed it with the 2 pygmy date palms. That goes for both sides of the bed. So that way we've wrapped it around. We've got our thriller in the middle, foxtail palm, and then we've got what they call, I don't know if they call it the spillers, where they kind of come around and kind of wrap around. And then we've got a centerpiece area that really just kind of crowns out and draws your eyes. That doesn't mean you can't jazz up other sections of the garden. Right on each corner, there's not a lot of room to do much of anything else, but I wanted something with some brightness, something with a contrast, color, and height that the rest of the bed doesn't have. So I chose to bring in some antilus. So we have a nice collection of antilus here. Now you can bring in a 15-gallon if you like and just do one nice cluster. I like to bring in some nice 5 gallons and cluster them together into one hole, let them really open up, become a nice spreading plant. This will get 8 foot tall right here and really kind of become just such a nice, almost like a column in the garden. And it's so different than the rest of the landscaping that it draws your eye, because there's not another variety like this. So we've got this anchored here, and then in another, what I call a dead area of the garden, over there, almost at the end, we have another cluster. And then you guys will notice, if Bryce will pop up a picture of the opposite side, where right at the other screen door, we have another cluster. So we have 3 clusters of what I would consider dead areas, areas that's kind of hard to do something really cool. I knew that this was gonna be a tight spot because the walkway is right here. I didn't want to put another odorata, silver odorata, or put another little accent or an agave or anything here, because it's gonna be right in the way of the walkway. But having something vertical here with some Sanchisia and gold mound around them, it is another type of spotlight. We go from a bright spotlight to a dark contrasting leaf spotlight. So these key clusters are really going to allow you to jazz up the bed, to kind of draw your eye from green, green, green to silver, green, green, green to red throughout the bed. I hope that comes across. I hope that makes sense. All right, so now for some of my favorite parts, the ground covers, the shrub material, the small things that pull it all together. Now they're kind of the unsung heroes of the garden. All of this other fun stuff is definitely great look, great energy, really, you know, takes the garden to another level, but you pull it all together with the edges, with the borders, with the small stuff, and that's what we're gonna talk about here. Right behind this beautiful cluster of antilu, I put in 2 Sanchisia. Why 2? Because only 2 will fit there and grow in super well and do the job really nicely between these 2. This is gonna be a shaded spot between these 2 areas, because these fishtail palms will do what fishtail palms do. We chose 2 fishtail palms for this particular space just to kind of help soften the neighbor's back patio space. It really does a good job of giving my clients a pretty instantaneous privacy buffer, and then as it matures, it's going to even do the job and create a gorgeous tropical wall right here. But Sanchisia are going to do a great job when these guys get 6 to 8 foot tall. They're going to wrap around the base of those trunks, giving it kind of a really cool variegated leaf kind of look, a little bit wild, a little bit crazy. And I could have continued them on to the front, but Sanchisia are one of those plants that don't like to be trimmed too much. If you trim them, they tend to just kind of be a little loosey-goosey and kind of crazy. So you want to let them get beefy. You want to let them spread out. They like room to grow. So I can put them back there and they'll go between these 2 plant groupings and be lush and tropical, not so much to the front. To the front, we would have had to trim them so much that they were not attractive from the screen room. So what I did choose for that is something that does not mind being little, does not mind being compact, which is the gold mounds. So these gold mounds are going to do a great job of not only giving us contrasting color from the mulch to the ground to the dark colors of the shaded spot, they're going to do a great job of just kind of being a beautiful yellowy chartreuse kind of green coloring different times of the season. And I just have a little cluster of them. I didn't go crazy. I just have a little bit of highlight with those to the front. The next plant grouping I chose, the ground cover, is the pentas, the dark hot pink pentas, because if you got yellow, why not bring in the pinks? This is my favorite variety, and these pentas bloom in the shade, which is hard to find. So that's why I chose them for this particular spot. I didn't use something that really is going to need a lot of sun to really do well and be beautiful. I needed something that was going to stay around 2.5, 3 foot tall. Now, you'll notice I had dwarf bougainvillea in the sunny areas in the back, and they get 3 by 3 and they're perfect. They can be mounded and kept small. For a bougainvillea, they're fabulous. Put them in an environment like this, they'll be sticky, twiggy, thorny messes. Not only do you not want to walk near them as you're in this garden, but they're not going to be gorgeous. They're going to have very, very little color, if any, and just be little green splotches in this area. These guys are going to offer that color. So definitely work with your space. If you've got full sun and you've got this type of space and you want to cover a little bit of the trunks, definitely dwarf bougainvillea, Helen Johnson's are some of my favorites, but not in this particular environment. So really be careful what you choose. The hot pink pentas, these guys get cut back. Usually I do it in the spring. I'll cut them really low down to the ground and let them flush out with all new growth every single year. Some people do it every 3 years. And if that works for you, that's perfectly fine. I like to do mine once a year. I'll cut it all the way back down, leave about this much of it left. It flushes out with new growth every year and just comes back beautifully, beautifully. And it happens so fast. It's like a blink of an eye. So it's definitely worth the cut back. To the rear of this silver odorata, I know it's gonna be hard for you guys to see, but I've got 3 Sanchisia that are gonna climb up this tree and give us a nice 5-foot bit of pop of color that are gonna love that filtered light, that are gonna enjoy it so much in their new home. I can already see them just like, you know, just going to town right there. And they're gonna give us a good yellow and green contrast against the silver centerpiece. And then we did the same thing over here. It's kind of a rinse and repeat. You guys know I love to do that. We've got the pentas here, dashed in with a little bit of gold mound here, and then yet again, only 2. And you guys know I'm a plant stuffer. If I could fit more in there, I would, but because of the size of this bed, I could only fit 2 in here and let them connect and really fill in. They'll come into this height and be gorgeous Sanchisia cluster right into this corner. And then of course, now we also have the ending point with the antilus as our final little corner piece to our bush plantings for this wall. So we are at the final stages, the final corner. As this bed wraps around, this is the ending point. You can see this is a different environment altogether. We're getting great sun from this back side. This is an area where I got to splurge a little bit with room and color. Right along this front, I brought my favorite Bloom My Minds in. I couldn't use them over there, but I could definitely use them right here. And then I've got a little -3 of the bougainvillea right here on this corner. They're not in bloom right now, but they're going to be busting with blooms. They're going to be 3 by 3, so fully connect. These 3 plants will turn into one big bush here and be a striking pink. And why I chose the Helen Johnson bougainvillea is because I have the pink pentas over on that side. So when you're looking at this as a whole, we've got the variegation of the Song of India, like the variegation in the Sanchisia. We've got the pink bougainvillea because we've got the pentas there. You can see kind of how everything comes together, and it's a different plant, but it's a similar feel. So it's like the garden is just in tune. It's the perfect song, you know? And then one of my favorite plants, one of Bryce's favorite plants too, is the Song of India. If you guys are looking for a cluster plant grouping that is striking, interesting, but not too formal, cluster in some Song of India together. They're so versatile. You can let them get 10 foot tall if you want. Not my favorite way to let them be, or you can let them cluster like this. They will connect together. They will find each other like a little family unit, and they will hold together like this. And all you have to do is just clip them as needed. You clip the tops of them off of whatever it is you don't want. If you've got one that's a little too hairy-carry for you, maybe it shot up too fast, then you just take that off, and they get chunkier and fuller and bushier. They can literally stay, once they're connected, that size their whole life by just trimming as needed. And I think people don't trim them because they don't realize that you can take those heads off and keep them kind of chunky and bushy. So that's something I want to get out there because I love this plant and I love to see it in more gardens. And I think it is such a cool, unique look. It just doesn't get used enough because I think people just let it get too big, thinking it's a big plant. But I promise you, you will be happy with using a cluster of these here and a cluster of these there to jazz up a spot. how to cover those pesky outdoor units, whether it's pool equipment or an AC unit or whatever it is that you're trying to cover on the side of your house, or maybe your HOA is requiring you to cover that, or a generator or whatever that might be. Commonly, I come to homes and it's covered like this. I didn't do this. This was already done and established before I got here, but you can see that they're sandwiched in Colucia on both sides of an AC unit. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's obviously working for what it's supposed to be doing. It's just not super attractive, but you're gonna wanna just maintain it off of the unit. So there's just a little bit extra maintenance on that, and it really serves no beautiful purpose. So the way that I like to do it when we're working with it, we had some extra Colucia that were actually planted in the front yard right underneath of a window. This is the same Colucia, it's from the original builder's package. So we took it out of the front yard where it can now grow like it's supposed to, and we pushed it along and put it along the front of all of the pool equipment that's over here. So this guy is going to get about 6 foot tall, matching the new Colucia hedge that's coming in. And then we left a walkway space in between the two areas. Now you can doll this up, you can do whatever you like to this area, but you can maintain this separation so you can easily come through here, get in here, go to the walkway, and nothing, no shrubbery or hedging or any kind of tools or anything is going to be right up against this unit. You want to kind of keep this clear. Look how much space, how much access this gives, and no one will be the wiser. Once this is 5, 6 foot, 7 foot tall, whatever they plan on doing, this will be your wall. Then your wall continues here, leaving you a fancy little doorway here that I could see a garden gate coming in if you'd like. You could plant low plants here of your choice, but really I kind of love how easy and accessible this little spot is right here. If you guys have a similar situation to this area and you're not kind of sure what to do with it, I love this combination of plants. I took 3 5-gallon little dwarf tree jasmine. These guys are chunky and small. If you've watched my backyard tour, you know that I love the way these guys just move, and the breeze, they're just so soft, bloom all year long with their white flowers and a yellow center. They're going to come in and be 5, 6 foot tall right on this wall, kind of give it some cool interest. They're going to be softer than the hedge that's going to be firmly all the way around it, offering a bit of warmth in this spot. Now, it doesn't have to be this particular plant. It could be something like a rafus palm if you have shade, something that's going to kind of grow on the wall, a cat palm. If you wanted something more formal, it could be, you know, a nice blueberry tree with some underplantings on it, but something that's just going to kind of give you a little punctuation that's a little bit different than the rest of the garden. So just to kind of soften each side of the walkway. So when you come out this way, you have something beautiful to look at. It's almost like a little courtyard setting as you walk through here. Imagine these formal and beautiful and tall and nice and tight, and that wall behind us. And then just really feels like this whole backyard, once everything grows in, it's private. They're going to get a jungle forest of their making, which is absolutely what they wanted. So I'm so glad you guys joined us today. Please check out our book if you'd like to see more of these tropical favorites and how to use them in your garden. If you enjoyed today's garden tour, then check out last week's video of a builder's package gone tropical. Thank you guys so much for visiting with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.